Can, on the agenda, would it be possible to move number 10 up before number 6?
We don't have an approval on the agenda yet.
Oh, okay. First we approve it and then we,
That's the way,
then
usually
we
I would
amend it.
assume. Not much to change.
No, we have to take the amendment first and then we approve the agenda as amended.
That's what I understand.
yeah, that's what I just wanted to do.
Yep.
Okay,
Any problems with moving 10 to ahead of 6?
Sharon, just a point of
11.
clarification. Did you mean 10 or 11?
11.
You
11.
said 10.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I meant 11.
And
11 between 5 and 6.
Yes,
11 up to 5 and 6.
yeah. So after 5, 11 would come.
Motion still with that adjustment?
I'll make it.
Second it?
All those in favor?
I
Aye.
make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting of December 9th.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. Do we have any public comment? Nothing heard, no public comment. Receipt of information from supervisors not seated as committee members. Think we have any others? That brings us to number 11.
Okay.
Which is review of Polk County Historical Society Museum MOU. Who's got that?
Well, I can speak to it. And Jan Carlson, the president of the Historical Society, is here too. If we have questions. I know I've got the copy that Malaya updated. And then the museum had recommended a few changes too. And I went through and looked through both of them just to see what, if we had any questions. And the only thing I could see on number 12. Go ahead. It says county representation on Society of Board of Directors. It says once county board member. It should say one county board member instead of once.
Do I have a copy of this?
Yep.
Down about 6 pages.
Oh, I got you. I have that too.
And then the only other thing, I think that, Jan, tell me if I missed something here, but the only other thing that there was a question on was on 15B. It said inventory shall be provided to the county no later than November 1st, 2023. And that's, you know, we had that about providing the inventory in the last MOU. And that's a bit problematic in that there's a inventory software called Past Perfect, and there's a lot of information in Past Perfect, and there's a lot of information in handwritten books from years and years ago. All of it's not in one place. So and we had talked about doing a video inventory of each display. So we had a video of each display. And we had spoken before about that, but to actually get everything that is in that 3 levels of that museum into the Past Perfect software, that's an effort that we just don't have the resources to be able to do that. And it's going to take time to do that.
I think the key is just to know that you're working on that. And I like the idea of a video
Yeah,
in place of it if you don't have it. I'm just thinking from a historical standpoint.
Yeah.
Sometimes things tend to walk away
yeah.
if there's not any inventory. So as long as you're making progress.
And we do have, every item that comes in is assigned in a session number. But that doesn't necessarily mean it was put into the software tool. And once it has an accession number, that goes on the item, and and there's a deed of gift. If somebody comes in and wants to donate something, they receive a deed of gift. They have to fill it out, sign it, turning that item over to the museum. And but one of the I also printed out a copy of our the museum strategic plan, and under collections, one of the strategies is to digitize at least 50% of the objects and 25% of the archives into Past Perfect to improve the quality and quantity of the data on our collection that's in Past Perfect. So we do have it in the museum strategic plan, which was just updated,
In 22.
in 22.
So it's a work in progress, but as the board changes over there and as the employees change, that data is different in that software. So it's like we have to go almost back and start over and try to make it the same. So it's a big undertaking, and we don't even have a museum director right now.
Right.
So that is, it's just the staffing thing.
Yeah.
And we all have staffing issues, right?
Right. Would it be fair, though, usually in these MOUs, we'll send an MOU to an organization that is organized differently than others, than us, certainly.
Mhm.
And I know with the EDC, I was asked, when I was there, asked to provide stuff that we simply did not have.
Yeah,
And what they found acceptable at the time was I gave my explanation as to here's what we do have.
yeah,
Here's why we don't have that. So I think as long as you can give us an explanation. The other thing I would just ask as a patron of it is do you have a process for checking stuff out when
yes.
they leave?
If something leaves the
Yes,
museum.
if
There's a
somebody-
deaccessioning process it's a formal process that's been defined. Now, the issue is, does everyone always follow that process? I hope so, but there's no guarantee of that. I mean, it's volunteer organization,
Okay.
it's,
Well, that'd be something, I mean, again, as you give that explanation, is to let us know what your process is to maintain inventory, whether
Sure.
you're completely there or not.
and we can do that. The museum board can share the policies that they have in place, and those policies were all approved by the board maybe 2 years ago.
Prior to me.
Yeah, it was, there's policies around accessioning and deaccessioning and policies around archive requests and those types of things. So they've all been formalized. When Greta was the president, that was all put in place and it was all approved by the board. So,
And there's also a policy of like we loan out some of our exhibits to a different museum. There's a policy for that. And also if we take in an exhibit from another museum.
Right.
Like last year, we had some from Sago, I believe.
yeah, and Civil War stuff we got. Yeah,
Is there a process in place for inventorying in your software system any new items so you don't get further behind?
Right.
That's already
We're
in place.
working,
Yeah.
we're working on that part.
like right now, there's a committee working on accessioning all the items that were brought in the last few months, like the last 6 months. So now they'll take time that the museum's closed.
Yep.
That's the time then they'll take and do that
All that.
accessioning. Yep. There's a room that all of that is stored in until the museum's closed, because there's not enough time to do that when it's open.
Yep.
So there's a committee, they just met yesterday. Saturday to determine how they're going to approach that.
Good.
In the
So there's a
next.
process in place for it anyway.
Yeah,
Yep,
So you don't get further behind than you already are, that you keep current with what's coming.
yep,
we're working on that.
yep.
Perfect.
I have a couple questions on item 14. Some of the stuff that is requested from the museum for us to report out and when we have to report out. So the ones that I question, because I'm not sure how we'd be able to do this, is 14B, the marketing performance indicators. Like the web analysis, I'm not sure how we would do that. And then the number of types of advertising and marketing. I'm assuming that's like how many places that we advertise the museum in. Is that what you guys are after?
Yeah, and I think it's more. If you have a website, you should be able to get a sense for
like track how many people.
how many people
Yeah.
are coming in. And then if you do an advertisement and you pay for something or you place for something, just to give the board an idea of what you're doing proactively to advance the
Get-
idea. Yeah,
get the
again, it's not
museum.
I don't think it's a matter in this case. We don't expect you to run your business like we would run our business, but rather these are the types of things we're interested in that's happening so that we can assess, is it, this is something we give money to? Is it something that is reaching people? Are you being proactive, or is the money just going in and we don't know where it's going out? That type of thing.
Like, for example, the Polk County Guide that just came out for 2023 has a full page ad
Yeah.
for the museum.
Right, so that's.
That's
one of
something
them.
like-
And
Just
then-
an idea, yeah.
So, yeah, there's a couple different things. Then the other things, some of the financial stuff, you said the prior year quarterlies. So like, when do you expect some of that financial stuff? When do you want us to turn it in?
20.
I mean, I don't have a problem
Right, so-
doing it.
Well, first, hi. I think we've had emails back and forth. It's nice to meet
Oh.
you, Jan. I'm Don Worth. I'm the General Government Director.
Okay,
This is to help us as we get ready for our budget cycle.
right.
So you'll get a reminder from us sometime in May or June to collect these. And we would need them before we go into deep budget work in July. And we can make that clearer on here if that would be helpful.
I just want to make sure, that you get them in the time that you guys want them. So that you guys don't think we're hiding anything at the museum.
No, and we'll,
Normally we send a letter out and believe me, I know what these letters are like. It's like, give us everything, and a date. And but once you do this, you just update it from the previous year. You just provide what information you have, an explanation, just to give us an overview of what's happening. And then if we had any questions, we could certainly call.
So now it's, can I ask you this June 1st?
So we're good?
I think we're good, Sharon.
Yeah. I'll stay up there.
Anything more?
I don't have anything
Those
more.
were my things that I had.
Brian, did you have any questions? Because you're the one that requested this be on the agenda.
I don't have any questions. The thing that I had brought up last, is my volume okay? Also, now that we're in this new room?
Just right.
Okay, I know it was kind of loud in that last one. The only reason I brought this up last time was just because constituents had asked me directly about what the board was going to do about that public discussion as a result of the article in the Leader. And Malia had brought up the idea of having this discussion here, kind of clarifying the MOU between the county and the Historical Society, just to kind of show that, for one thing, the things that were being asked about, like for direct action, wasn't anything that the county had any business in taking action on or anything like that. And I think it was just kind of an opportunity to show that there isn't anything for us to do directly about those questions. And it was just kind of making sure that people were heard, but also showing that as far as what was being asked about, there wasn't anything directly for this group to do.
Yep, I think you're right. And the paper did they spoke to Jan and I. And of course, it wasn't put on the front page, but it was put on page 6. And they, if you read that article, they agreed that they were satisfied that their questions were all answered and they didn't have any further questions.
All right,
So
that's what I'll point to, if good thing is nobody's asked about it again. And if anybody does, I'll have that to point to and just good to go.
Perfect.
There's one typo on section 11. It states buildings and facilities director. It should say facilities manager. 11, fifth line down.
I will say too, if I can really quick, it had been asked about that 14B. I think just whoever runs the Historical Society's Facebook, you can go in the back end there and you can see the numbers and you can see like the performance of specific posts or for the the Facebook page as a whole for the year and everything like that, that would be interesting to track year over year, because that just gives you all your opportunities that you have for marketing and things like that to take a look at, like, okay, what went well, where do we have opportunities for improvement or growth or anything like that. And so it would be kind of interesting to kind of throw that into the bucket of, you know, how EDC tracks their social media and their marketing initiatives and things like that. So I know it's a different ballgame, but something that we can look at.
Okay, I'll try to figure it out. I'm not a website master by any means, but I guess we'll give it another shot. Work in progress.
Yep.
Right?
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you. Update and discussion regarding possible housing initiatives.
Yeah, I don't have a lot here. I just wanted to keep it on the agenda, let you know Jay and I, the chair, and I have talked a little bit. I've also talked with some of the other folks in other committees, HHS in particular. There's really kind of two sections we're looking at, two avenues, we think. You know, housing is housing, but there's some interest in, you know, kind of the market-based housing, and there's also interest in housing for homeless, housing for low income, and that type of thing. So I'm going to be meeting with folks, you know, the Amory Housing Authority. Hopefully I'm going to reach out to her and set something up. Barbara and I have talked about meeting for discussions with not WEDA,
West Cap.
West Cap, yeah. And to kind of look at different options again, so that once we get together, we can say, okay, is this something that we need to divvy out into two separate perspectives or looks, and then present to the full board as to, you know, prioritization and which way to go. So it's really more of a, let's keep it on the agenda. I think next month we'll have more information.
Wonderful. Number 7, discussion of possible action regarding resolution number 04-23, requesting the state of Wisconsin to revise the current real estate transfer fee revenue formula.
Yeah, I can kick this thing off. Sally, our Register of Deeds, came and talked to me about, you know, how budgets are tight and all that. And it used to be that 50% of all those registrations and so on went to the state. Well, not, you know, several years ago, the state said, no, we want 80%. So really, she looked at it and said, you know, there was no reason or explanation in her mind as to why that happened. And that some counties have talked about, given our needs in that office and throughout the state in that office, we do all the work, let us keep at least 50%. So going back, so we've talked about, and I don't, is it included in this packet?
Not seeing it in the packet, but I know it's drafted.
Okay, so we talked about a lobbying resolution and suggesting basically that we go back to the 50% and that we would keep 50%. So it doesn't cost us anything to submit this resolution. Already, I think maybe a third of the counties have initiated something like this. Thought I'd get your reaction to it because I thought it was something that would make sense for us.
I read that too, and it made good sense to us versus the state again.
Right.
And it just, and like you said, there was no explanation as to why we lost 30% in the first place. And have been losing it ever since. And I suggest that we move this on to the county board on it as an agenda item. I make a motion to that effect, actually.
With our recommendation,
That's our recommendation.
I would support that.
Do you guys want
I'll second the
a
motion.
consensus?
Yeah,
Okay.
our consensus.
Ryan,
Yeah, let's go.
perfect.
Okay,
Pass that on to the county board with committee representative.
Yeah, and we've got, and I don't have them on me, but we, you know, Sally has put together how much money we're talking about. And it's a significant amount of money for her office and the county.
and it's a simple resolution.
Right.
I mean, if you can't understand that, it's we'll bring you in and tutor you.
Number 8, discussion regarding prepayment of flexible spending account expected expenses.
Vince, can I handle that?
Please.
Yeah, so if you've got a flexible spending account, is everyone familiar with what that is? So pre-tax dollars you can use for medical related expenses. A lot of employees take advantage of that here in the county. We've had a system where each day we have to move money out of our account for $3.17 or $16.24 over to our organization called WEX that manages this for us. So we have to take money out of our account, send it to WEX, onesie, twosie. The reason we've done that is because county policy in general prohibits paying for anything in advance of receipt, which makes good sense. So we very, very seldom go against this general policy. Examples of when we would pay for something in advance might be conference registration, where you've got to send a fee in before you attend the conference. But in general, we don't pay for anything before we receive the goods. So that's why we've been doing this incremental balancing of accounts, which takes one of our finance team members an hour a day. The general government director has the ability to approve purchases in advance, and I'm just informing the committee that we are going to do things a little different in the future here. We're going to take $20,000, 2 months worth of these incremental, roughly 2 months worth of these incremental expenses, and send that $20,000 to WEX so that we only have to reconcile once a month. So instead of the staff member going through each day and literally taking a few dollars out of our account and moving it over to WEX to pay for the service rendered, we're going to give them money in advance and then reconcile on the back end. It'll save us a lot of time and energy, and staff people can do things that are more productive. So I've made a determination that was a good move to spend that money in advance. We'll re-up each month as we exhaust half the funds in that account. I just wanted to make you aware of that as an action by the general government director. Any
Is that
questions?
enough for we have to add to it in?
Yes, correct, sir. We'll each month add, this is an average, we spend about
Okay.
$10,000 a month on this. So we'll add another 10 each month. And
Okay.
it just keeps us from having to do this mountain of incremental paperwork.
Truly no dollar change. It just
No dollar change at all.
improves the efficiency.
I suppose, and we'll get to this in a second, there's a very minor amount of interest that we lose.
And value of the money.
Right, exactly. Time.
But you would save money by not having to have someone do this every
Exactly so.
day.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
that's
Excellent.
what I have on that item.
That's just advising us.
Just advising, that's right.
Okay.
Number 9, investment report, third quarter 2022 draft.
Okay, if you are all right, I'll handle that as well. In your packet, there's this colorful sheet toward the back. And it's also up here on the screen. It's possible that this committee has seen investment reports in the past, but I haven't generated one. And it's something that we should be doing through the investment committee, but as sort of a dry run. Investment committee is a group of folks that are supposed to meet once a year. It's not clear that we've always done that, but we act together as well. I'm just interested in your feedback, whether you find this information to be valuable, if you'd like to see it once a quarter, and if so, if this is the right format. So what is this? These are the monies that our investment counselors hold for us. Basically, we retain an organization called PMA to help us make investment decisions. So on this sheet here, you'll see that we've basically got, there's really 3 categories, although it looks like 4. We've got CDs, we've got cash management accounts, CMS and IS are both cash management accounts. And then we've got basically treasury instruments under SEC. So altogether, we've got, when they mature, about $31 million in these kinds of accounts. If you look at the bottom line down here, just below the green box, you'll see in the second to the leftmost, the rightmost column, par value of 31 million. That's that once all the instruments mature, that's how much money they'd be worth. The overall rate that we've got right now on those investments is about 2.65. Now, an interesting thing is happening. We're making a lot more money on short-term investments now than we are on long-term investments. So we've got, if you look to the, under the CD, Service First Bank, I mean, we've got essentially almost no yield on that instrument. So what we're doing right now is we're evaluating purchases these have various maturities. And if you'd like to see that detail, I can share that with you. It's on another tab on this. But as these things roll out of their life cycle, right now we're parking them in a cash management account because the return's so good. And we're waiting for some of the CDs, as an example, to catch up. So is it good news or bad news? Well, it's great news that we can make more money in a short-term investment. The bad news is everything that we buy costs more. So, you know, Mo can account to that. I'm sure Tanya can too. Things are just more expensive. Certainly with our labor force, things are more expensive. This is probably the most boiled down way I can share the information. If it's too boiled down, I'd be happy to show more detail. But this is sort of the first cut of the report. And I'd be happy to show you the more detail if you'd like to take a look at that. All we need to do, Claire, is to go to the All Accounts tab, one over from the pivot there. Yep. So this is just a running list of all the instruments that we've got. 101 is our general fund. We could sort on that. 102 is our health fund. And if you scroll all the way down, we've got some monies that are tagged as ARPA funds under 401. Altogether, that's currently about $30 million, at maturity about 31 million.
I think the only thing, Don, that I see that might be valuable just from my seat in the house would be to understand the timeline of maturities. This group matures in 60 days. This group matures in 6 months.
It's on this one.
I know it is, but if there was a simple way, if you had it on a flash report.
We can do another pivot table that would have that.
I think it just gives us a little guideline as to what's happening in the economy. If we've got this quick reference in that and just the maturities with it in each of those categories helps us.
Yeah, it does.
When are we gonna make some decisions on this? Or I thought you said we meet once a year to,
Well, the investment committee sets a policy for investments. It doesn't make any investment decisions. That's for
just the policy and the
policies.
overall.
Yes, and so it would assess whether we're taking too much risk or too little risk, whether we're liquid enough. So those are the sorts of things the investment committee could do. They set the basic parameters. As these instruments mature, the treasurer and I and our advisors at PMA make the decisions about what we do next. Now, I can also, I could update this committee, once a quarter, I think would be inappropriate, about what we bought and what we, let go. So that's another thing we could do in addition, Dan, to the.
When is this committee meeting again to make some adjustments?
When I looked at our financial policy, it suggests that, and I apologize, it suggests that it meets once a year. And my recollection from Chad was that it was to meet right before the budget cycle. But I'm not sure that's baked in the
To
policy.
be later this fall. What, who's on that committee?
Treasurer, me, Don, the chairman.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, it would probably be wise if I appointed somebody that has a little better handle on the economy. I was happy when the kumquats went down 30%. I thought that was gonna be the big turn, but I guess I went to the market and it didn't change much, but.
Well, as we look at our financial policies, if you would like to have chairman or designate, that'd be an easy change for you, for us to make and for you to
I'm sure
approve.
there's some people on this board that are a lot more astute than I am on financial investments.
Well, even if we
Consider
don't,
that.
even if we don't appoint somebody, to Don's points, I think it would be good, at least for now, as he'd mentioned, like when yield curves or as yield curves are flipped, we should probably keep this as a quarterly update, just because, if short-term investments are the things that are bringing in the money right now,
Right.
it makes more sense to do more.
Well, we've got time.
Yeah, but it makes more sense to do more, to do updates more often, since we're not just looking at long-term investments, we're looking at short-term investments.
CDs
I
are
think
going
I'm-
up. CDs are going up too, so.
We got some pretty good bids. In fact, Amanda and I meet later today to talk about a couple things that are maturing. And we got bids from, we did a national call. And we got some bids that were close to 3.5, 3.75 or some CDs,
Yeah.
depending on the maturity. And it's odd, the banks are all over the place in terms of whether they're rewarding long-term investment, medium-term investment, or short-term. So we'll just pick the best choice make the best choice for us, but the banks haven't got it figured out right now. As far as
Yeah, and I would just appreciate the update. I'm not saying add more cooks to the kitchen as far as the decision making on the strategy, but the updates are awesome, especially during times like this.
Would it be logical then to put this on the agenda at some time in the future? So that we can make an investment if necessary for the committee to guide is basically what we're doing sometime before the budget.
We we will have an investment committee meeting for policy and then a quarterly update, I think is what Donna's suggesting to this.
we've got it in the work plan as a draft. So
Perfect.
All right. Good, good.
Anything more, Don, on that?
not on that, sir.
Okay. Next is number 10, review of updated IT policy draft.
Right, so. And I'll hand the microphone over to someone else in a second, sorry to keep it for 3 straight agenda items. But what I'd just like to pass out, we're not going to spend a lot of time reviewing this today because it's not ready for. You got one already? Okay, sorry.
That's good.
So our IT director, Scott Good, was reviewing our former IT policy, which was on 1 page. And I think computers existed back then when it was drafted, but it really, the policy needed to be completely reworked. And so the document you're seeing in front of you is broken into 6 or 7 major components. And I'm just showing this to you as an indication that we're working, that we're getting, we're making some progress on it, but this is not ready to be reviewed in detail by this committee or approved. But Scott will have his final draft in front of the committee next month. So we're running a little bit behind on this, but it's frankly because we bit off a bigger project than we were imagining.
I'm also guessing that Scott isn't recreating the wheel. He's utilizing some resources from a lot of other recommended support systems.
That is exactly right, sir. And one way you can detect that is because there's some formatting changes that in this document, there's a lot of variability in the formatting. It's because this is the best of breed document where Scott reviewed the major categories that many institutions have in terms of IT policy, found what he thought was the best example, and then plugged it in. But it's kind of uneven because of that at this point. Exactly so. So one thing we might want to keep in mind is when we go over the work plan today, add a review and possibly approve IT policy for February or March. So not ready to do it in January, but should be in February. Are there any questions about what we're trying to accomplish by revising this IT policy? I guess I didn't really get to that. We want to make IT more secure, basically. We want to make it very challenging to access our data from the outside and make sure the county and its employees are protected with respect to information technology.
Don, do you anticipate that after you get this to ground zero, after we get the final draft, that will go probably under an annual review again?
Right. And
Here with the changes.
red line, kind of like we do everything, but this one was in such, it needed so much. It's like bulldoze the house, build a new one kind of thing, rather than incremental change. But I would imagine everything else from now on, sir, would be incremental change.
Wonderful. Any other questions on that?
Well, no.
Number 12, review and update the 2022 committee work plan. Should be 2023, I believe.
We didn't catch that. We didn't catch that.
If anyone had any immediate suggestions or. Generally, I think it's, we follow the same process, tweak it.
I think Don laid it out nicely as to what things are gonna be happening, what months in our
Mhm.
past meetings, so I think that's pretty
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And you, the one you just suggested, Don, was that already in our work
No,
plan?
I think we'll need to add a bullet in February for
Put that in February?
review and approve IT policy. And that's to your discretion whether you approve it or not.
The executive committee has an agenda item as to whether or not to have a February meeting to be discussed in the executive meeting on Thursday or.
Yeah, we'll discuss that on Thursday if we have.
All right.
Okay, with that, we have a request to go into closed session. Need a motion?
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're back into open session. Number 14, identify subject matters for next meeting, February 13th, 2023 at 8:30. About 8:40.
And the 13th, not the
Checking the
18th.
day.
Anything else to go on?
Mm-mm.
I don't think so, not at this point.
Only one thing left.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We stand adjourned.
All right. Good job.